The TV I'm showing you now is the Sanyo CP32WF2. It's a CRT TV, 32 inch, widescreen, flat screen. Its year of manufacture I think is around 2004, 2005. Now I don't have many widescreen TVs in my collection, and I was under the impression that once widescreen TVs entered the market, they would have all generally have been 100Hz models with deinterlacing, heavy digital processing. So it comes to a surprise to me that this TV is not of that ilk. It's not 100Hz as far as I can tell, because one, the picture doesn't introduce any artifacts into it that looks like it's 100Hz. Two, there's no mention of it in the instruction manual. Three, there's no on-screen commands that mention it with the remote. Four, the chassis inside the television is pretty simple. There's not a lot of circuitry in there. There's not a lot of chips that I believe would control that factor of 100Hz processing. And probably lastly, most strongly, the other reason is that light gun games do work on this TV. I've got here House of the Dead on the Saturn. It's running in SCART RGB. I should mention that this TV does have SCARTs in the back. So I'll give you a demonstration that the gun, light phaser gun, does work on this TV.
Others are still inside. Save them.
Yeah, that's pretty good. No problems there. A little bit off of my aim, but you soon know when you try this on a 100Hz television that you won't get anywhere. You may notice there's borders on the left side and the right side of the screen. Well, that's because I've got it in a 4:3 aspect ratio mode. I don't like to stretch out any of these consoles that run in this mode into a widescreen style. I can do that. As such, quite a few little options to choose from, but I like it the original way in a 4:3 style. It looks actually like it might be a little bit more stretched than 4:3, but that's as close as you're going to get to the way it should be. Here's the remote. It's nothing fancy. I'm just showing you that so you know what it looks like. While we're around the front of the TV, there's a little hatch here. Lift it up. It's got a headphone socket. Looks like 3.5mm size input, and 3 sets of RCA sockets. One for composite video, and the other two, the white and the red, for stereo sound input. At the back of the TV, I'll zoom in. We've got an antenna socket. Next to that we've got stereo output in RCA forms, left and right. And then we've got the two SCART sockets, AV1 and AV2, and they are both RGB enabled. If I move up, you might not be able to see this, but in the bottom left hand corner, there it is. That's where the TV's made in Indonesia. I've taken the shell off the back of the TV to have a look inside. The tube is a Sanyo branded tube, and you see down the bottom right corner, Korea, most likely the place of manufacture. And back here at the chassis, can't really probably make out too much here, but it's not the most jam-packed component, jam-packed chassis I've ever seen. Not a good or a bad point, I suppose. Let's have a look at the picture quality. Now, what I have to say about this TV is that the picture's not too bad, but there's something I don't like about it. And I don't know what it is, but when you've seen better TVs, you can kind of automatically rank it in your mind where it's at, and it's not top tier. I did search for a way to get into the service menu on this TV and I couldn't find it. I've made adjustments to the picture with the remote with the standard on-screen menu options, but I would like to get into the service menu to further tweak the picture and see if I can make any more improvements, but I don't think it would make a big difference. It's a bit of a close-up. Getting close there, see the scan lines a bit better. As I said, not too bad. Here's another game, Rayman for the Saturn. This game's got really good graphics. I often use it to see what the picture quality's like. Beautiful graphics. You can notice on the top corners of the picture there is a bit of curvature. I'd like to get into the service menu to straighten that edge up there, and also on the other side it just curves in at the top there. Looks pretty good. I've connected a pattern generator to the television and got a grid pattern up. If you look up in the top left corner, or any of the corners for that matter, you can see a vertical white line, the very leftmost one. If you follow that down the screen, you'll see that it'll get narrower and disappear as it goes into the bottom left corner. Similar scenario with the bottom white line. Disappears into the corner. This one appears in the top right corner. If I was able to get into the service menu, I could probably make some adjustments to straighten it up and get those white lines visible along the full length at the edge of the screen. Overall, it's not too bad. There's no real big problems there. There's problems I just noted on the edge, quite common on CRTs. If you look here in the corner, you can see a tinge of red and a tinge of blue on the edges. It's starting to get out of convergence there. Another common problem with CRTs. The thing is, these TVs can be set in the factory to overscan and somewhat push any defects beyond the edge of the screen, beyond the visible viewing area. I would like to bring the picture back in. I'd like to get it all centered. It did appear before when I was playing the games that it was too far to the left, so I can't really make a complete judgment without being able to fiddle around. This TV is also equipped to handle an SVideo signal, and it'll do that through AV2, which is one of the SCART sockets. You have to manually set it to take SVideo as such, and I'm going to test it with a Super Famicom and a Super Famicom SVideo cable. There's the Super Famicom end, and here's the SVideo end. You might wonder how I'll put that into a SCART socket. Well, I've got an adapter here, SCART on one end, and it's got an SVideo right there. So now I've turned the Super Famicom and got SVideo going. I'm really surprised how good the quality is of the picture here. If I put this Super Famicom into SCART RGB, there's almost no difference, at least on this TV anyway. Very surprising. A good result. Overall, I'd say the Sanyo is a good performer in SVideo. Not bad in RGB either, but there's better TVs out there for the job. Now, there's not much point putting on the older consoles on this TV because they output a 4:3 aspect ratio style picture, and this widescreen's a 16:9. You don't want to stretch it to fill the screen, and then if you leave it in a 4:3 look on a widescreen, you're not really taking advantage of the full tube size. So where does it leave it? You might use it on modern systems, or those that support widescreen by default, such as the 360 or the PS3. I'd still go with HDMI on those on a plasma. Or you might use it on a PS2 or a GameCube or an Xbox One. Some games support widescreen, and they all do support RGB, or the PAL GameCubes do anyway. But then again, a lot of those games probably also support progressive scan, so you'd be better off with a TV that supported progressive scan. That could be debatable. So it's a bit of a niche TV. It doesn't have any component inputs, but then on the flip side, it doesn't have any 100 Hz processing, so you don't get any of those ugly artifacts, and you can use light guns on it. For me personally, it doesn't really have much of a place in my setup. Maybe if I had a huge setup with a lot of consoles, a lot of TVs, I'd incorporate it. And then with the picture quality not being at the top tier, it's not really for me. Anyway, it's got Scarts in the back, and it was a recent pickup. I bought it off a guy for 30 bucks. A little bit dear considering CRTs aren't worth anything, but with the scarcity of Scart in Australia, I'll snap up any TVs I can find with Scart and give them a bit of a rundown like I did with it today. So stay tuned, I'll show you some more TVs in the future, and some with some really good picture quality, and then you can chase them down and put them in your setup. Thanks for watching.